My name is Rebecca Hayes. I'm 33 years old, and until 2 months ago, I was still married to Daniel Brooks. 14 years of marriage, longer than most tech startups last, and definitely longer than the patience I was supposed to have. His lawyer leaned in and whispered a few words, and Daniel's face, that smug look I'd seen across the dinner table for 14 years, suddenly went white as a sheet. His hands were shaking as he held the papers he'd been so eager to sign. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I was truly in control. But to understand how we got here, I have to start from the beginning. How a woman everyone thought had given up was actually quietly setting up the biggest payback of her life. I met Daniel when I was 18, fresh out of community college with a financial management certificate. Not some genius move, just practical. I wanted out of my parents' tight budget. I landed an entry-level bookkeeping job at a small firm, handling invoices and basic ledgers. Daniel was 25, charismatic and ambitious, always talking about turning a family diner into a chain of casual restaurants. He talked about success like it was just waiting for him to claim it. I offered to help with the paperwork. Romantic, right? We got married when I was 19. Emily came along when I was 20. I worked part-time at the firm while raising her, stashing every spare dollar into my retirement account. My grandmother always said a woman needs her own money, not hidden, just hers alone. When I was 23, Daniel's business started taking off. He asked me to quit and come work for him full-time, no pay. He needed someone he could trust with finances, suppliers, marketing. So I became everything: accountant, manager, event coordinator, all while raising Emily and running the house. My official title was wife, but I was the one actually running things. For 10 years, I built his dream, and he got all the praise at every networking event. Then things shifted. He started making decisions alone, staying out late, nitpicking everything. 2 months ago, he filed for divorce. I want the company, the apartment, the cars, everything, except our daughter, he said straight up at the kitchen table. My lawyer told me to fight. I said, let him have what he wants. Everyone thought I was crazy. At the final hearing, I agreed to sign it all away. His smug grin was ridiculous. He was totally satisfied until his lawyer finished reading the agreement and went completely pale. Before I get into the rest, what time is it where you're watching this, and which city are you in? Let me know so I can see how far my story has spread. If you're hooked, hit subscribe and drop a comment. I read every single one. Thanks. 4 years ago, one late night at the main restaurant office, Daniel was out again, saying he had a supplier meeting. I was balancing the books for our 5 locations at the time. Then I spotted a $5,000 transfer to an account I didn't recognize. Another one followed. A pattern emerged, money flowing out regularly, nothing tied to any expense I knew about. I stayed up until dawn tracing every transaction. What I uncovered made my blood run cold. Daniel had leveraged everything. Our apartment, valued at $800,000, now carried 3 mortgages, totaling $1,100,000, original $400,000, plus 2 more at $350,000 each over the past 5 years. We owed $300,000 more than it was worth. The business was even worse. Credit lines maxed at $200,000, unpaid taxes $90,000, supplier debts $130,000, equipment financing $80,000. The chain he bragged about everywhere was drowning in $500,000 of obligations. Even the vehicles, 2 SUVs and a pickup, were leased, with balloon payments of $120,000 coming due. Nothing was truly ours, just endless bills piling up. Total debt, $1.7 million. Real asset value, $1.4 million at best. We were $300,000 underwater. Where did the money go? I dug for weeks after that. Crypto losses, $200,000 gone. Gambling, $80,000. Secret condo for a mistress, $70,000 in rent and furnishings. Personal splurges, watches, solo trips, another $90,000. Daniel wasn't building an empire. He was propping up a fake one with borrowed money, and it was about to collapse. At first, I wanted to confront him, scream for answers, but I knew him too well. After years watching him negotiate, I knew if I spoke up, he'd twist it, make me doubt myself, maybe even blame my bookkeeping. Worse, he might go after my separate money. Grandma's words echoed, "Keep your own funds." From my old job, I'd built a retirement account now at $180,000, earned before marriage, legally mine alone. When Grandma passed when I was 27, she left me $320,000, specified for me only. I'd kept it separate for 6 years, never mixing it with business, $500,000 safe, so I stayed quiet and started planning. After that night, I decided not to confront him right away. I reached out to my brother, Kevin Hayes, a certified financial advisor who'd retired early in Seattle. We met privately on weekends at his place. He went through all the documents I'd copied, mortgage statements, credit reports, transaction logs. "This is bad, but we can protect you," he said. Together, we set up an irrevocable trust just for Emily. My retirement rollover and inheritance went straight in, total $500,000. The trust named Emily sole beneficiary for college, housing, emergencies. My name wasn't on it as owner. Daniel's definitely wasn't. Untouchable in divorce under state law, Kevin handled all the paperwork, making sure no link to marital assets. Next came gathering proof. Every loan detail, suspicious transfer, debt notice. I printed multiple sets, stored one in a locked file at Kevin's, another on an encrypted drive in a safe deposit box under my name only. I photographed key pages too, backed up on a private cloud. Over the following months, I quietly watched Daniel dig deeper. More crypto crashes. Another gambling run losing $30,000. On paper, the chain grew to 7 spots, but in reality, it was all overextended leases. I got good at patience, smiling at openings while knowing the foundation was rotting. Kevin checked in monthly with updates. "Just wait for his move," he said. "Guys like him always get bored eventually." I nodded, keeping Emily's life normal. School runs, homework, help. 4 years went by like that. I became an expert at pretending I knew nothing, quietly logging every new debt. When Daniel finally filed and demanded everything, I almost laughed. He wasn't claiming assets, he was inheriting the mess, he just didn't know it yet. 2 months ago, Daniel came home one evening. He set a folder on the dining table and sat across from me. "I've filed for divorce," he said flatly. "I want the company, the apartment, the cars, everything, except Emily." He slid the draft over, listing it all clearly. The 7 restaurants, our downtown apartment, the leased vehicles, all his. Emily to me like it was some big concession. I just stared, taking it in. The next day, his sister, Karen Brooks, a real estate agent who'd always seen me as not good enough for the family, showed up uninvited. She patted my arm with fake sympathy. "You should have kept things more exciting," she said. Karen had her own failed marriage but loved giving advice. She helped by going through my stuff, deciding what I could take. Old clothes, yes. Some family photos, maybe. But jewelry from Daniel over the years? No. Marital property. Furniture I'd picked? His now. She packed in cheap plastic bags, tossing things in carelessly. The message was clear. "You're trash." Within days, Daniel started cutting finances. He blocked my access to the joint cards first. "Separating accounts makes sense," he emailed. Then the personal one tied to the business. He even suggested I find a temporary place soon, like the apartment wasn't half mine. Karen came back twice more, supervising packing, commenting on how I wasn't fighting. "Daniel needs stability for the chain," she said. The humiliation built steadily. He changed the apartment locks without telling me. One time I came home and had to wait outside until he showed up. Emily, 13, saw it all and asked why Dad was being so cold. I kept answers neutral, trying to shield her as much as I could. The first week after the announcement, Megan Riley started showing up all the time. The 26-year-old assistant from one of our locations walked in like she owned the place. She used my coffee machine for her lattes, lounged on the couch Daniel and I picked together. Megan had that perfect Instagram look, highlighted hair, expensive athleisure, costing more than my weekly groceries. She posted pics from the apartment, captioning "New vibes, new energy." Daniel put his arm around her right in front of me, treating me like I was invisible. Things escalated fast. He brought Megan to a family dinner at the flagship spot, seating her in my usual chair. Emily stared, but Daniel brushed it off. "Things change, kiddo." One time, Megan even wore my scarf, saying she found it in the closet. Meanwhile, my old coworker Laura Jenkins, who I'd known for 15 years from the accounting firm, thought was a real friend, kept calling to check in. At first, it sounded caring, but then weird details popped up. I mentioned to Laura thinking about claiming the apartment. Next day, Emily came home saying Dad told her no chance. I told Laura I was looking at rentals in a certain suburb. Daniel immediately mocked it as too expensive for me. It all clicked. Laura's over. The top laughs at Daniel's jokes at past events, her questions always starting with him. She'd been feeding him info, trading 20 years of friendship for some flirting and vague promises. Emily took the hardest hit. Daniel kept dripping poison. "Mom's making this complicated. I just want us all happy." Emily pulled away, talked less, repeated his lines. Seeing my 13-year-old start doubting me, that cut the deepest. I hired Susan Fletcher, my lawyer from the old accounting firm. She's in her 50 seconds, sharp, no nonsense. She reviewed everything and said, "You built half this chain, fight for your share." I put the thick folders on her desk, 4 years of debt records. She read for almost an hour. "You've known this long?" I nodded, waiting for him to file. Susan's look went from pity to respect. "He takes the assets, he takes the debts." Exactly. My separate money was safe in Emily's trust. We planned from there. Over the 2 months of mediation, I played the defeated wife, soft voice, hesitant agreements. I asked for minimal. 40,000 cash, personal stuff, custody of Emily. Daniel agreed fast, probably expecting a battle for half. He got cockier, telling everyone I didn't fight at all. "She just gave up," he bragged to business buddies. I overheard through Emily. He bought a new $10,000 suit on the company card, wore it to our next session just to rub it in. Megan got spoiled too. Designer bags, fancy dinners at places we'd celebrated anniversaries. She repainted the apartment from my warm tones to stark white, posting modern upgrade. Laura kept calling, pretending concern. "How's it going?" I'd answer weakly, "Just want it over." Hours later, Daniel knew my exact words. She was his cheap messenger. But Emily started noticing the cracks. She saw Dad's luxury spending, but heard him deny her school trip for money's tight. Saw Megan's shopping piles, but heard him complain about finances. One afternoon at my temporary rental, the cramped 2-bedroom Emily and I moved into, she sat at the kitchen table and asked, "Is Dad really successful, Mom?" I squeezed her hand. "What do you think?" She paused. "It doesn't add up." That's when trust started coming back. 2 weeks before the final hearing, Daniel's lawyer, Robert Klein, called Susan with questions. "My client is taking on major assets. We'd like a full audit first." Susan stayed neutral. "Up to you." But when Robert passed it on, Daniel shot it down. "I know my company's worth. No need to waste money." Robert pushed. "Verify it. This is big." Daniel cut him off. "Megan wants this done. So do I." Robert drafted a waiver, stating he'd advised an independent review, and the client declined. Daniel signed without reading. The main agreement was clear. I gave up all claims to the chain, apartment, vehicles. He got everything for my small settlement. But the addendum listed every liability, each mortgage, credit line, back tax, tied to those assets. Signing made him personally responsible for $1.7 million in debt. The night before court, Susan called, 9 a.m. "Tomorrow, Judge Margaret Lowe." "Ready?" I looked around the rental, boxes still stacked, simple setup. Ready for 4 years. That evening, Daniel texted, "Thanks for not making it ugly." I replied short, "Best for Emily." Her trust was locked tight. His lesson was about to start. Morning of the hearing, courtroom 3C. Daniel showed up early in his new suit, shaking Robert's hand confidently. Megan waited in the hall, scrolling her phone. Karen sat in the gallery, nodding approval at her brother. I walked in wearing a simple dress, looking worn on purpose. Judge Margaret Lowe, late 52nds, sharp eyes from decades on the family bench, called the session to order. Brooks versus Hayes. Agreement reached? Robert stood. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Brooks assumes all assets, restaurant chain, residence, vehicles. Susan confirmed. Mrs. Hayes accepts $40,000 and relinquishes claims. The judge studied me. You're sure about giving up substantial property? I answered softly. Yes, Your Honor. He gets exactly what he asked for. Papers were passed for signatures. Daniel signed fast, barely looking. I signed deliberately. Robert reviewed last, hit the addendum. His face went pale. He whispered urgently, You're taking on all the debt. Daniel finally read, color draining. Apartment, $1,100,000 owed. Business, $500,000 liabilities. Vehicles, $120,000. Total $1.7 million. Net negative $300,000. He jumped up. This isn't right. She hit it. The judge snapped. Sit down, Mr. Brooks. Robert produced the waiver. I advised an audit. You refused. Signed here. Judge Lowe glanced. You waived verification voluntarily. Agreement stands. Gavel down. Marriage dissolved. Daniel turned to me, voice cracking. You knew. I met his eyes. I kept your books for 10 years. Of course I knew. He slumped as I walked out. In the hall, Megan overheard his outburst at the lawyer and bolted, heels clicking fast. 3 months later, it all crashed. Daniel filed Chapter 7. Assets liquidated. Chain shut down after supplier lawsuits. Apartment foreclosed. He begged family for loans, blaming me for hiding debt, but every document had his signature. Megan packed and left overnight. Karen called Emily, begging, Tell your mom I didn't know. I'm sorry. Emily said, Mom's busy rebuilding our life. No time for excuses. Laura tried me twice, voice shaking. I didn't think it was this bad. I hung up and blocked her. Emily got it all now, reading court papers and watching the fallout. One evening in our rental, she said, You protected us for 4 years. We hugged tight. My $40,000 settlement covered starting over. The trust stayed untouched for Emily's future. I launched a financial consulting side gig, helping women post-divorce. My first client, a 48-year-old ending 25 years, asked how to rebuild. I told her, one step at a time, but first secure your own foundation no one can touch. Grandma was right. Women need independent money for real freedom. Patience brings clarity. And true family is who sticks around when everything falls apart.